Okay, we're live. Welcome to How to Build Your Own Home. Every Thursday from 5. There's my beautiful wife down there. There you go. Sit up there, sweetie. There we are. Now we're equals. She has a little shorter chair than I've got. Every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We may just go about 30 minutes today, or we'll see how long we can go today. But I have a couple things that I want you to think about. And I've mentioned this before. I've talked about these things before, but owner building is really, really best done when there's two people. And I've never really kind of emphasized this, but I want to kind of drive it home to help a lot of people understand. If you have 20 to 30 hours a week free time, then that's great if that's just you and you're managing it. But you've got to make sure you've got enough time on the back end and enough time on the front end. And I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about that kind of a process. And my wife will chime in on this, because when we did our first home back in, what was that, 2002? It was overwhelming. We were both working full-time jobs. And so our nights didn't belong to us. They belonged to the build. We both lost a lot of weight because we're working late at night. My wife would show up at 10 o'clock with some tuna sandwiches or something. But she devised a binder system where she just kept everything in a binder, very similar to the program we have here. But that binder helped organize and keep track of everything that we were doing. And then when we had draws, we just put all the invoices, receipts, etc., in a draw and submitted them to the bank. But that's a lot of work. All right, I don't want to overwhelm you, but it's a lot of work to do that and try to manage the build site. So if I didn't have my wife on the back end managing that, it would have been very, very difficult, because I was able to know where the money was pretty much every step of the way. So when we made a couple of calls that called for some extra funding or needed or contingency that we were going to use, I knew where those are, because my wife and I were talking and looking at those numbers almost every day. So and if you have that duo situation, somebody you can run the books, budgeting, numbers, invoicing, that kind of stuff, and paying invoices, and somebody to be on the job site, that's a really, really, and it's not as taxing. Although I did a lot of physical labor, I saved a lot. We had a lot of equity in the home when we were done, but I wasn't overwhelmed. And I think that's the difference. You want to be taxed physically. Oh, we got something done. We got the roof done. We got this done. We pulled wire. I had neighbors that came and helped me pull wire, and he was an electrician. It was great. And we saved a lot of money. But I couldn't coordinate all that plus the back end all by myself. If you're doing a lot of this stuff on the job site, if you're just subbing it all out, then that's a different story. But if you're really trying to manage the job site and carry some of the load there, try to break that up. And I've mentioned this before, every great business that I've come in contact with, a small home-based business, somebody's running all the paperwork, the back end, marketing, sales, invoicing, estimating. They're running all that in the back end, and somebody's actually getting the work done out there in the field doing whatever they're doing. It could be plumbing or power washing or shampooing carpets, whatever your business is. It's the same thing with owner builders. And I just wanted to reiterate that. And if you have some questions, you can ask those questions. I do have a couple of emails, one email that came through. Hopefully I can find it here. Let's take some questions right away, and hopefully we can come back to that subject matter. Okay. This is from Carisser Heiser.
Larry Cyril Heiser.
German, looks like it's German. 3741. What special considerations would you think about other than remote temperature and water monitoring for an electric, no gas or propane, part-time use vacation house on septic? Very interesting question here. Remote temperature and water monitoring for an all-electric, no gas or propane, part-time use vacation house on septic. What your main concern is, I don't know where, and again, if you're asking questions, tell me your build area where you're building, and it tells me your environment, because that's the first thing I'm asking is, do you have to worry about freezing temperatures? Because if you have to worry about freezing temperatures, are you going to run the home, even though you're not there, at a low temperature to make sure things freeze? Or are you going to be able to shut down that facility during a cold temperature drop? Like we've seen in the Midwest, massive cold temperatures, snow on the coast of Florida this past week, snow on the beach,
Oh,
Florida.
she's in Northwest Missouri.
Okay, that's a cold climate. Okay.
Yeah, I would figure it's cold if they have a temperature control.
Yeah. Yeah, you can monitor it. A lot of the stuff today can be put on a smartphone, and it's not that expensive. And we're not talking about home automation, but you can actually monitor your temperature and manage that from your home. And that's not hard. So when you talk with your HVAC contractor and your plumbing contractor, they can actually help with that.
Do you think there's anything else? Because like it sounds like they are watching the temperature of the home and the water, because those are the biggest issues. You don't want your plumbing to freeze. But what else would there be for a part-time home?
The electric heater, it's not gas. And so that tank is always filled with 50 to 60 gallons of water. Okay. And it's going to kick on and off when the temperature drops. But some of the ancillary pipes outside that, they could also freeze. So it's hard to drain those, because once you drain them, you can't turn it on. And a lot of times people drain them, but they don't turn them off, and the element inside burns up, and then you're toast. So tanked water heaters are very hard, and the only way to manage that is to put a soft water before it, manage the water so it's clean, or other technologies, and then to keep that at a lower temperature while you're away. You don't need to keep it at 120 degrees Fahrenheit. You can have that kicked on when you get there, but you want to have it kicked on maybe around 80 degrees or 70 degrees, because when the tank gets warm enough, it sends that heat out to the ancillary pipes until you get into your PEX system. But all the pipes connecting to that tank, they're metal, they're copper, typically copper. And those can easily freeze. And when they freeze, they break and snap, and that's your weak part. But after that, the PEX can handle some sort of freezing until it thaws. But that's that weakest spot, is where your water is and where you're meeting with your water tank. And if you can put that water tank in conditioned space, all the better. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, she also brought up, do you have any types of water heater suggestions or opinions on the tankless water heaters? We love tankless.
I love tankless if it's gas. If it's power, it draws a huge amount of power. We're talking 2 30-amp breakers side by side almost, and that's a lot of power to draw. Europe does all their tankless water heaters in electric because they don't have the natural gas we have here. But if you can get natural gas, great. Propane, it's a little pricey, but it's not bad if it's just for water. Okay, heating up water. And then it's instantaneous, and you're not carrying that body of water inside a tank and worrying about freezing temperatures. And that might be something to consider, to do propane just for that alone, because you'll have instant water and you never have to worry about draining a tank or anything like that. So look into that. So I have it on my home. I'm on propane.
Yeah.
And we have a tankless water heater. It's on propane. It's marvelous. Instant hot water. We don't have to wait for it. And then I'm never going to run out. In cold climates like that, I wake up in the morning and I warm up in the shower. And I'll take a longer hot shower because I know I have that hot water. So at least plumb your home for gas, whether you're going to get natural gas later or propane now. At least if you're in a new construction, get that done. I just did a home where we are not going to put gas in the home, but we actually plumb the gas in the home. So at least go that far while you have it open frame system. So,
well, it looks like they're not going to have any gas or propane.
Okay.
So.
Okay, next one. Stay Rich 33. I like that. Quick question, sir. How do I choose the best foundation for my site, or does a civil engineer choose it, or he makes recommendations to which one is the best one to use? First of all, you won't be using a civil engineer. That's for infrastructure in cities. You'll need a structural engineer, and no, a structural engineer may make that decision based upon your recommendations and in part by the geotech recommendation as well. If you have a high water table, super high, that's going to affect that foundation quite a bit. If it's pretty dry or cold, cold temperatures, you're going to have a frost protection that's going to go down 30, 36 inches, 42 inches, depending upon how far north you are. That's going to affect the foundation as well. Keep in mind, there are places in Alaska and Canada where the frost is so far down, you're almost down to a partial basement. So you start weighing the cost. Oh man, should I just go ahead and do a basement? So keep that in mind. I without knowing where you are, it's really hard to guess what kind of foundation might be best for you. But it's very rare to put a slab on grade in a northern climate or a high altitude climate, because you're going to have cold wicking inside that foundation. You have to put a thermal break between the outside and the inside foundation. And I've done a lot of videos on that. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but a thermal break is insulation barrier so that the cold from the outside doesn't wick inside the inside. Just inside, even in a home in Florida, if it's a slab on grade and you've got tile, walk towards the front door in your bare feet or to any exterior perimeter of the home. And if it's cold out, even 60 or 50 degrees, you're going to feel the first 3 feet of that foundation. You're going to feel that cold. That's what I'm talking about. It's not extreme in those climates, but in a northern climate and you don't have a thermal break or a separation from the outside to the inside, you're going to wick all that inside. And that's where a slab on grade is not very helpful. You really want to break that off and have insulation as a barrier. That's why a crawl space is probably more advantageous if you're in a colder climate. Okay, good question. Jay Chinnery, when do you know you wanted to be a contractor? What age? What was the catalyst? It just kind of fell that way. I originally, like my wife, we were educators and I wanted to be a college professor, and somebody moved my cheese and I basically left higher education. Mm-hmm. And then over the years, I got into the trades, electrical. This is with advanced degrees. I went right into the trades. And
well, also because we were both educators, we had to have second and third jobs. Yeah. So I did photography on a side job, and Keith, my dad had a roofing company, so he was learning roofing, and then he learned building because my dad was also a developer. So we always had spare jobs that we were doing in the construction industry. So we learned all of that along the way. And when Keith's cheese got moved, mine kept getting threatened to be moved. We're just like, we're putting all this time and effort into our other people's homes by remodeling or helping and build. What if we were to build our own? And then what if we had our own business? We put all the time and effort we do for students. What if we did that for our own business? So we went out on our own.
Yeah, I guess the catalyst is your mid 40s. You're going to find, and this is kind of a straight up being honest, if you find yourself in your early to mid 40s and you feel like you're on the way out, or they want to push you out and they want somebody younger in there because that person is cheaper, you are now facing the fact that you need to be an entrepreneur. And most entrepreneurs really start in their late 30s and their mid 40s. They don't start very, very young. They get tired of it. I just met a gentleman at my networking this morning, and he goes, Keith, I got to start my own thing. And he's 47, and so that's a catalyst. And if you're in that range, my dad was in that range. He had to find his own life. My father-in-law was the same. He was forced to have to be an entrepreneur. And if you feel that, then you're going to be an owner builder. And I've actually mentored 2 owner builders recently in the past month, where they're actually having an opportunity to manage the build of somebody else's build, but they're not the general contractor. They're just site supervisor. And they're making a small little living by actually supervising the build of another job. So you're building a skill set, whether you know it or not, and that skill set's valuable in a world where there's very little care given to that skill set. So there's a lot of catalysts there, and it's probably different for each person.
Well, and then we can take Mackenzie's situation. She just was a part of the building process since she was little, and she loved it because she figured that she could have a family and do her own thing. And she loved building and she loved making things beautiful. So she knew right away. She knew in high school. I think she was 14 or 16. She's like, I'm going to be a general contractor.
Yep.
She could have been valedictorian, and her counselors say, you could go to any school, get anything. And she's like, no, I'm going to be a general contractor. So
yeah, and now she does better than most of her students that I know of, anyway. So, great question. We could talk forever about that. It's a great subject. So
here we go.
Okay, Scott Allen, 1318. Can you recommend a metal shingle roofer in the St. George area? Yeah, Contact Stout Roofing. They've been trained by Permalock. Permalock actually came down. This is Jake. He's the president of Permalock, and he came down and he actually trained them because I couldn't get on roofs anymore. And so I found a subcontractor. They've learned how to install them. And if you know the Turner Turf Farm, you know that place out there in Washington Fields, or not Washington Fields, but Washington City. If you go, there's a new home that's almost just basically done right there. Go check out the roof. That was done by them, and it's a combination roof. Some of it is standing seam. Most of it is aluminum shingle. So you can drive up there and take a look at that. But contact Stout Roofing and mention Kelsch Construction, and they'd be glad to help you out.
Okay, this is a question from our intro.
Okay, what if you don't have that right away? I am having that issue. I am on the jobs items, but have to do paperwork also.
So like the front of the house and the back of the house.
Oh, okay. You just have to partition your time. You're not going to have any weekends. You save your Saturdays and Sunday evenings for your paperwork, and then you're going to be managing the job during the week. And then you tell your subs that you're going to do draws once a month or twice a month if you can do it, but at least once a month, and that gives you a little bit of buffer on that. Most likely, you'll probably do them twice a month because that makes guys wait a long time for money, and you don't want them to do past net 30. You want to have them paid within 30 days. So the first of the month and like the 15th or 16th of the month, every other Friday or something like that, you tell everyone, make sure you get your invoices in. I'll be doing a draw this weekend, and Saturday mornings are really a good time for that, or even on late Saturday night. But you want to juggle your time appropriately. You want to be at a job site in the mornings during the course of the week because that's when subcontractors are going to be there. So you don't want to be doing that paperwork during then. You want to be on that job site and then do your paperwork when nobody's on the job site. So if you can offset it like that, I think you'll be just fine. You can do it. It just takes a little more scheduling and foresight and forethought. Okay, DCV 4547. That's Trump 4547, right? He was the 45th and 47th president. I can't relate that. Anyway, I'm in Middle Tennessee. We're in the design process. Your thoughts on courtyard and also in octagonal homes.
I love courtyards.
Courtyards are nice. Just keep in mind there's a lot of framing around it. I did a courtyard for some clients, and they wished that they would have sealed it off and put a roof on it because we had some real complex draining problems inside that courtyard. Courtyards are really, really good in the southern parts, Texas, Florida, all that, especially when they're a little high and you have some palm trees or whatever, and they're creating some shade. It's really attractive, but it's not as great in a colder climate because you've got drainage issues and snow coming right down into your front entrance of your home. And so if you're facing south, you'll have the sun coming in the courtyard. I strongly recommend that. If you're facing north and your courtyard is facing north, you're going to have some ice and snow and issues like that you want to avoid. So placement of the home is very, very key to a courtyard. Octagonal homes, that's just going to be more complexity in framing. So you might want to think a little twice on that. It's also going to be very hard for the framers, not framers, but the foundation crew to make sure they line that up. The more you can design a home in a rectangular design as a first-time owner builder, the closer you can stay to that design, the more affordable and the easier it is for subs to come and bang it out. But when you create more complexity on the job, it actually increases the cost. I mentored some students in Idaho, and they had, I can't remember the name of the roof. It's a barn roof where it comes down like this, different types, all the way to the ground. And they really wanted the design, and I warned them, and they found out pretty quick that it was going to be really, really hard to frame because the entire roof was stick framed. It wasn't a truss situation. So it threw the cost so high up that they ended up not doing the build, and they sold the whole plan and the lot to somebody else. And about 3 years later, they started again on another lot because they reached back at me and says, "Hey, can we activate our program again?" I go, "Yeah, I'll turn it back on for you." So just be careful. Complexity is costly.
Yeah. And just on the real estate side, the octagon homes have a harder resale value. I know the philosophy and everything behind it with the light and energy, but they are really hard to sell.
Yeah, they are. Hard to roof too. Yeah. A geodesic dome is not easy to roof, but that's a different design. Okay, next one. Should I wire electrical 400 amp to future proof or 200 amp for 4-bedroom, 4.5 bath, heated floors, geothermal, car charger, no current electric car, house will not have propane, all electric. 200 amps is going to be more than fine for that size of a home. 400 amps is going to increase your taxes on that. And it's going to be considered commercial. And so in a lot of areas, they'll rate it as a commercial. So stay away from the 400 amp. I do have a 400 amp panel that I can sell anybody if they want. But yeah, you're going to be just fine with 200 amps because you can actually do a sub panel off the 200 amp. You can divide that and take another sub panel for 200 amp and put it in the garage or another. I have a home in St. George on 200 amps, and you wouldn't believe how much I have on that. I have 2 sub panels, and each sub panel, one sub panel is a 200 amp sub panel, and another panel is a 100 amp sub panel. And then I have another sub panel for 50 amps, and I have another sub panel for another 100 amps. Most of it's LED lighting. Most of it's not a high draw factor. But if I had the expensive lighting, high cost lighting back in the day, it might be different. But I'm at that threshold where, and I do have the 400 amp panel ready to throw in there if we have some problem, but we haven't had any problems so far. But you're going to be fine with 200 amps. Okay. Venom Bunny 94, student breaking ground next week. Awesome. In Western Washington. How much space should there be between the concrete porch and the 6x6 wooden posts? Thanks. Really good question. It's not the distance between the concrete porch and the 6x6 posts. It's the eave beyond the posts, meaning that if you're Western Washington, you'll get some snow. So snow could come right off that roof. And if that eave is really, really short and your post is right there, you're going to have snow and water and other stuff come down against that post. So I'd make sure I have at least a 12 to an 18-inch eave beyond the post, and then 6 inches, 6 feet might be a little small. You might want to go to 7 or even 8 on that porch. It gives you a lot more open air, more movement, and 6 might be a little small, but it's not bad. I've done that before. Just on a front porch. On a back porch, 6 feet would be fine, but on a front porch, it might be a little on the narrow side. But yeah, watch that eave beyond the post. That's your big ticket right there. Okay.
That's a good question.
Basalinksy, I didn't say that right. Basalinksy. I completed the course and there was a lot of emphasis on geotech report. I'm currently doing a new rebuild. The existing house already has a basement. Is there a need to do another geotech report? No, not unless you're going outside that footprint. If you go outside that footprint and you're doing a 100 square foot addition, then they're going to do a geotech report. And that's where they'll come and do a site test, dig a little hole, do some core samples, take some Proctor of those core samples. It will tell you what the compaction or over-X is going to be required. And then when you get ready, you'll compact that soil or over-X and then compact. And then they'll come and do a test pit or test compaction test to make sure, yep, you're good. Go ahead and put your footings down. The soil is ready to go. So I never skip that. Some of the worst things I've ever seen on a home are foundation related, where they just go ahead and dig a hole or footings and they pour their concrete and don't think anything of it. And there's weak spots in the foundation. And so that foundation, prepping the dirt properly is key. And a geotech report helps you align that. And they will tell you, oh, you need to over-X and recompact 5 feet, 6 feet, 3 feet, 2 feet, whatever it may be, based upon what the Proctor tells them. So I don't build without one. In my neck of the woods, you can't even pull a permit without showing that you have a geotech report. It's equivalent to the architectural and the structural engineered plans. It's that important. You have to have that when you submit for a plan. In my neck of the woods, some places in Texas, they don't ask for it, but most places are really getting privy to it and they're waking up and they're demanding it. So good question.
And I'm just going to say his name because I think it's Basil Kingsley.
Okay.
So it wasn't chopped up. Okay.
Okay. Carissa Holheiser. How was that?
Gary Cyril Heiser.
Hoping to use Lonnie to draft up plans. He's great. The framer I'm likely to use, I've been told, is an engineer. Would it make sense to have him do all the engineering on the plans? If he's licensed, yes.
Yeah.
Why not? And tell him and negotiate a deal, a package deal. Tell you what, I'll do this for you, give you both if you give me some sort of a deal. Sometimes when you package things like that, it's nice and they make a little more money, but it's also an opportunity for savings. You might want to consider that. I don't like to browbeat people, but you never know. So
yeah.
Okay, good question.
This is same. Basil Kingsley.
Okay, building in Canada. I live across from the street from the new build. Soil is sandy loam till the frost line, and then clay. Yeah, I wonder how deep that clay is.
So he was the one with the basement already.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that clay, depending upon the clay, can require some new compaction. Sand is going to need over-X and recompaction too. But keep in mind that clay, you're going to have to wait till spring because clay freezes really, really hard. And so when you have a thaw and you're in the springtime, when you recompact that soil, the worst thing you ever want to do is pour concrete on frozen ground. Mm-hmm. Even if it was compacted, when it starts to thaw, it will do its thing and it's going to affect your foundation. You want that thawed out, compacted, tested, verified, and not frozen, and then poured concrete on your footings or what after that. Now you can do it in the winter, but here's what you have to do. You have to dig down during the sunny day, dig down, compact, have it tested, and throw blankets on it. Keep it warm, even if it's super cold, throw some heaters underneath there to keep that ground warm and not frozen. So just watch out for that there, especially in Canada. So they have a very short build season because of that. Okay, primetime Peyton. Hey guys, so slab versus crawl space Southern Indiana. Really good question. Probably
cold?
It's cold in Indiana. It's the Midwest, above Florida. It's also above, what's that state there? Mississippi. It's above Mississippi. So it's somewhat moderate, not as cold as Minnesota up that way. I would probably, it depends on what your soil's like. And if you have, if you got some rolling hills there in Indiana, or it's just flat. If it's flat ground, you probably just a slab on grade wouldn't be bad, but you probably could have some possible freezing temps. So you may need a frost, a stem wall that's got some frost protection on it. It depends on what the builders in the area do. And you'll find out by just looking at build sites, most of them might be slab on grade. Most of them might just be a stem wall. And if you do a stem wall, that creates an opportunity for ease of install of all of your mechanical underneath. But just use structural engineered trusses, not TGI. So I just did a video on that, and it comes out in about a week. Make sure you watch that. It's really, here's the thing. Stem walls are really, really hard to establish grade because they come up 2-3 feet and you've got your truss either sitting on top or sitting inside. And then you've got that foundation you've got to reach, establish, meaning either steps or you bring enough dirt where you're going to raise it up just perfectly. It's really hard to get grade, especially in garages and without building any steps in a home. I just did I'm just getting a 7-way inspection on a home across the valley, and it was hard, but we have 0 thresholds in the entire main level of the home. 3-car garage, a nice big cabin area, open space, not a single step anywhere, but it was not easy to establish that. And that's in a walkout basement. And part of the house is a slab on grade, and the other part of the house is framed wood floor. And they met perfectly. And I still have no steps anywhere on the house, not even from the garage into the home. That's just my style. It's what I like to try to do, but it's not easy. Stem walls make that harder. Slab on grade makes it easier. So think about that if that helps you. Okay. Okay. Phlegm. There we go. What sort of price are you seeing for monolithic slab or grade foundations? 1,800 square feet. That could be north of $9 to $10 a square foot, probably more, depending upon how thick we're going to pour the slab. And I like to pour mine at least 4 to 5 inches thick. I don't like to do them 3.5 inches thick, which is what a lot of slab guys do. They just put up their 2x4 frame and that's their thickness. I like to go a little thicker. And sometimes they can put a piece of 1x material on top of that and give you a better depth on that. Again, it's if you're going to put rebar in it or not put rebar in it. If there's going to be any shovel footings or spot footings inside the build, that's also going to be a big factor on it. And then how big of a turn down, meaning when you get to the edge of the foundation, do you suddenly turn down to a 12-inch turn down and you have a massive monolithic pour there where your footings. And then the geotech report can help you identify the footings, and the structural engineer will say, oh, 10 inches thick, 24 inches wide, or they'll say 36 inches wide, and they'll want, 12, 18 inches thick in some rare situations. So again, your geotech report's going to help a little bit with that, and your structural engineer is going to make the final call. So that also affects that price. Slab, just regular flat work right now, like a driveway or a sidewalk, I can get on the low end at $7 a square foot. In other areas, it's going to be $9, $12, $15 a square foot, and I don't see it anywhere lower. I'm at probably the lowest cost to build in the nation. There's other places that are probably lower if they have Portland cement that's close by and affordable. But I know other areas are paying almost double that. So shop around and find out what those costs are for 1,800 square feet. And if it's slab on grade, tell them and tell them you want rebar, number 3 rebar on 3 foot on center. Ask them what would the cost per square foot be, and they should be able to tell you. Okay.
Okay. This is Jay Chinnery. So he's also an educator, music teacher. Thanks for all you do for those students. You don't get enough thanks, I know. And he's in the same position, kind of like, when did you decide to change? So just wanted to give you a shout out.
Okay, I'm going to answer a question here.
Oh, you got it? Do you want me to? I just put one up. Do you want me to stop?
Yeah, let me do this one first. This is from I'm actually doing a consult with this student later on tonight. But let's see, he had a specific question. It was going to be an interesting question for other students here. Oh, he says he has some experience in building. He was a remodeler for several years, but I'm not confident in those numbers, meaning those numbers he's put together. So I'd love to have you go over the numbers with us and make any adjustments. So basically, what he's saying here is, and this is a really good question, it's a really good forward thinking approach to stuff, is to double check your numbers. And I don't think he's in the program, so he doesn't have the budget. And that's what I'm going to talk to him about tonight. You can go through the First Steps course, take the third module that gives you the ability to find the cost per square foot in your area, and then you go test that with actual bidding, and then you got 2, 3, 4, 5 different bids, and it actually helps you hone in that cost per square foot. But if you don't have a budget to look at the line items you need to look for, then you're going to be in the dark. So the budget we've created is the best in the industry. People rave about it. It has the ability to show all the draws, tabulate all the draws, have a running total of what you spent based upon the budget, shows you if you're under, over, all of that. That's what the budget actually does. So if you've got both the self-managed course, you're going to see in the download section, you'll see that budget. So that's going to be really helpful, because the worst thing you can do is just download a budget from the internet. It's not a working budget. It's not a practice to budget. So therefore, you are in the dark. Like I talked with a client today. I says, hey, I said to my client, I need you to select a chimney cap. Chimney cap? I go, yeah, if you don't, we can have some leaks in the house because you got a wood burning fireplace. I would never have thought about that. Yeah, here's my contact. He's got a showroom. Just go pick one out you like. And he texted me while we're online here, the actual chimney he likes. That's what the budget does. It showcases everything that could possibly surface as a cost. And you go, oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, I need that. I'll go find a price for it. I'll go get a bid for that. I can plug that number in. But if you don't know all those line items in there, that's where you could be in the dark. So that's where the self-managed package really shines, is it gives you a great budget. Okay.
Here we go.
Steve Lund, 7357. I'm in Michigan and wish to change my foundation from a full basement to an insulated stem wall and slab on grade with radiant floor heating. Do I need to have an engineer to design it? So are you going to backfill the basement from a full
Maybe he's not going to do a full basement and cut instead.
Oh, change my foundation, meaning probably in the design phase.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you could do that. It will save you some money on the excavation costs, but the insulated stem wall would be very, very invaluable. But keep in mind.
Does he need an engineer to redesign it?
Yeah. So you're going to take it to the permitting office. And if they say a basement and they come on the job site and it's the stem wall you need, they're going to make you change the engineering for that.
Yep,
so yes, you'll have to change it. So, but the insulated, you can just ask him if he can show on the details where best to insulate on that stem wall, and then you can actually get it bid appropriately. So my current design has a 10-foot ceilings in the great room. This is from Scott Allen. When I order trusses, can I vault the great room, or will I have to go back to the architect? Single story with 612 pitch. Let me 10 ceilings in the great room. When I order
Does it have to be on the plans for vaulted ceilings?
No. He's going to have what's called a truss plan, a truss layout. So you can change that. It's just that the truss plant will actually design what you want, and then they'll stamp those, and then they'll have a truss layout. And then you'll upload that truss layout to the building permit. Like I just got an email earlier for some truss layout for another job. I didn't pass my inspection, my framing inspection, because I didn't have the truss layout uploaded to the system. So you're going to need that uploaded to the system. So when they come and inspect, they go look at the truss detail, and each truss is going to have a stamp on it, kind of a piece of paper, and he'll make sure that they're all there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're all there. So if you have a 10-foot ceilings and you actually want for a vaulted area, they can actually design that in the trusses. Talk with your truss plant. Truss plants, if you talk with them, they can do some really remarkable things. I have 2 homes. I should actually do a video on this, where the shower was recessed in the floor trusses, and it was designed at the plant. So when they brought the trusses on the job site, we had our recessed floor for the shower ready to go. So when we fill it up and tile it and do everything, it's a zero threshold. It's really popular and it's very easy to clean, and a lot of people like that. So think about that and talk with your truss plant and ask them, hey, can you build in a coffered ceiling? Can you build in kind of a vaulted situation inside the ceiling? If you just talk with them, they can do that. Okay.
Yeah. So he's saying, because there's lots of dead space in the attic. Yeah. That's why we like to use attic trusses. We just use that space, but you got to put stairs in. It's no longer a single level.
Yeah.
But that's why we like it.
612 pitch. It's probably a very broad spanse. You could actually go for an 8 or 912 pitch and throw some attic trusses in there and get some free space almost. You know,
that's if they want 2-story. Some people just want the single story. So.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Andre
Manigay?
16. Keith is the best to be on the job site the whole time construction is going on. Do you even if you have more than one job going on? Yes, I have more than one job going on. I stop by my jobs every single day. And if I'm not there, my daughter's there. She's running a job down in the town. I'm up here on the mountain running some jobs. So I see them every day. Yep, especially in the morning. I like in Queens, New York City corner lot with a 30 by 40 backyard. Do you think that I can build an ADU there? And is a modular better than standard stick? I wouldn't do a modular. It's not going to appraise as well. And there's a lot of new tiny modulars that you can buy. Stay away from that. Anything on a permanent foundation is going to appraise better. And given the fact you have a 30 by 40, find out what your setback is. Go into the city and say, hi, I live here at this address. Can you tell me what the setback is? And can you tell me if I can build an ADU? And it's going to be more than likely attached to the home, not detached. And if you attach it to the home, you might be able to get something a little bigger. So, but go to the city permitting office and ask them, just walk in and be nice. Hi, how are you doing? You having a good day? And say something nice to them and they'll help you out. Okay.
This is a really good question. My ugly spaceship.
I had to design and make my plans. How do I get from here to blueprints? And do I need blueprints? Blueprints is kind of an old term. They don't call them blueprints anymore. They just call them architectural and structural plans. Sometimes they combine them in one. If you have an architect who's in-house engineer also, they'll combine them as one full set. But if you have a draftsperson who's separate, they'll have his plans that will show elevations, all that kind of stuff, the floor plan and the electrical plan. Then the structural will come right after that, and it will give you all the structural details for the build of the home. So how do I get from here to blueprints? You need to find an engineer. You need to find a structural engineer who will take those plans in their vector format and then upload them into their program, and then they'll actually draft structural plans from the architectural's drafted plans. Okay. That's why you don't buy plans online, because when you buy plans online, they're not engineered. There's no site plan. The architect needs to do a site plan. And whenever you get an architect, just don't have him draft the plans. He needs to draft the plans for the lot. And that lot needs to indicate where the water and sewer and gas and all that are. And if you're putting a septic on, that site plan needs to go to the geotech engineers so they can actually design a septic for that lot. See how it is all integrated? If you buy plans online, you don't have all that additional work done, and they will charge you through the nose to get it done. You go to those sites to get ideas for floor plans, but you hire a draftsperson to design your custom plans, and it's not going to be any more money. It's going to actually be a big cost savings for you. Okay.
Okay, Keith, we have a lot of questions, and I know we're running out of time, so I just want you to know that so we can get through.
Okay, I will answer them faster. How can I protect our home from EMF? There's a Faraday cage type of thing you can put on, and a lot of it has to do with the exterior of the home. what you can actually put on. Research Faraday cage for homes, whole home design. And some people have put on aluminum wrapping. Some people put on a wire mesh. Some people put all kinds of stuff on there for EMF protection. Just don't build under power lines or anywhere near power lines. A lot of health problems are caused because of electromagnetic frequencies, which is EMF, because they built right under power lines, and bury your own power lines in the ground. So good question, though. I could talk forever on that one.
Okay, this is quick.
Okay, it's I need that panel. Okay.
The 400 amp panel.
Yeah. What supply do you use for your rock wool? I go back and forth. I liked the Power Wool out of Canada. They helped get me a good price on this home. So check them. They'll drop ship directly to your home. Also, you have Corning has a product. Rockwool has a product. You can get them at a lot of box stores, but a lot of those box stores they're slow to delivery because there's such a high demand for it right now. Because the new code came out and the new outside thermal envelope code has come out with the IRC, International Residential Code. It's now adding that as a code structure, and a lot of jurisdictions are adding it on. So just keep that in mind. There's going to be more of a draw on that product in the years to come. Good question. Andrea, I said, should I wait to start groundbreaking on a new build? We have had terrible weather here in North Carolina, so not sure. I would wait another month or two. It's not going to hurt. It's going to be much better for you. Wait till you get in, and that's the trick. Wait till summer or winter ends, but then you get into a rainy season. You want to get a window of opportunity where you can get that foundation in a dry season. The worst thing to do is to try to build in mud. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. So whatever your most driest season is for now in the next 6 months, try your best to hit it. Okay.
Okay, this next question, I was trying to go back to it. The Mall Pearl. I don't know if you remember. Venom Bunny forgot to tell you it's a wraparound covered concrete porch, aging in place ADA home.
Yeah, wraparound porches are wonderful. It adds a lot of
I can't remember the original
value to a home. And the porch is the intermediary between you and community. And when you have a porch on your home, it really adds a lot to that home. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that, to get that whole thing. So, okay.
Oh, you have more information on adding 1.5 to 2 power wool. I'd like to do it myself, but some of the details are a bit confusing. Video's coming out in about a week. We actually did a video on that. It's the flashing detail. So if you went 1 inch of mineral wool, you shouldn't have any problem. It will butt right up to the windows. But if you go beyond that, the insulation comes beyond the reveal of that window, and that's where you need to flash the windows. So watch the video that's coming out and you'll see the detail on that.
Okay. Keith, did you also show how you attached it?
Yep. We have it all.
Special. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
They doing North Carolina. Should I have a geotech done? Never heard of it. If so, how do I go about doing it? Just research online in your local area, geotech engineer or geotech structural engineer. Don't say geologist, because those are people who look really, really, really deep. You want a geotech who's 30 or 40 feet max, that subsurface layer where people are building stuff on. So look for a geotech engineer. Okay. Not a soils guy. I had a client one time order a soils test, and they sent from a local university, and the university sent a packet, take some soil samples and put it in here, and they sent it off. And they got this report, but it was all for gardening. It had nothing to do with the structural integrity of everything beneath. That's the soils test by local universities, ag departments. You don't want to go there. Go with a geotech engineer, and you should find them locally. Okay. Architect historically built our architect plans. A name gave month ago may buy plans from live in Michigan, I think so. Michigan.
Michigan.
County drain, run downside 2-acre, 1.45 buildable lot. City water, sanitary utilities, basement or slab for barn dough office shop. The barn dough is going to be a slab on grade. It's not going to be a stem wall at all. That's how they're built. They're basically commercial buildings on a slab. So keep that in mind. And if you are there in Michigan, that's going to be cold temperatures. So you're going to have a stem wall that's going to go down below, and then they're going to pour the slab on top of that, and you're going to want to insulate that. Otherwise, that cold is going to wick right through that foundation and make it even worse. So keep that in mind.
There's two more. Well, it just says opinions appreciated, but then this is added.
Okay, it's an open drain, runs into the river to make major lake in Michigan, X50 FEMA rating, 0.02 chance, 500-year flood chance. Lift that home an additional foot on the foundation it's at, and that gives you an additional protection. And then if you do some amelioration on the foundation for the framing structure, like I've done on a lot of videos, and cover that so water doesn't come in under the foundation between the framing structure and the slab. And I did that on a home I built for some clients, and I went up 2 feet because they lived down by a river bottom. So if the river flooded and came up against that home about 1.5 feet to 2 feet, all they'd have to do is sandbag the doorways and they'd be just fine. Water's not going to get into that home. So you can do a little extra precaution on that. And this is where a lot of builders never even think about protecting. It's that foundation, framing structure, and sealing it off, coming up the framing structure 1.5 feet and coming down on the foundation, 6 inches or something. And there's a felt products, and you can seal that up with a lot of different products. And you're going to have that freedom of conscience where you're not going to have to worry about issues coming in. People did that in Florida. You see all these homes in Florida where they get 1 foot of water that comes against the home. If they just did that, they could solve so many problems and save a lot of property damage. So good question.
This one is from Fly Jim, and I've been thinking about you. I don't know if you're the one in Prescott, Arizona, but this is a good question, Keith.
Some said my plan needs stem wall. Others said slab on grade is fine. I'm getting concrete bids.
Oh, sorry.
Location is never freeze, desert, hot, Arizona.
There's more.
Yeah, code is 4 inches minimum. ADUs is 2-story. Yeah, I do a slab on grade.
Very basic plan.
Very basic plan. I wouldn't do a stem wall on that. I would, and you have to keep in mind the stem wall is probably going to cost you a little more, depending on if there's a frost depth or not. But I would go a slab on grade there.
So it never freezes. It's desert.
I'm going to tell you why subcontractors push a stem wall. Okay. You can hide imperfections, and you don't have to worry about imperfections. If you do a monolithic slab or any kind of a slab work, the finished detail on that is highly it's not error proof, meaning a lot of subcontractors are not as good at it with that kind of a flat work and hitting it just right. But a stem wall, they throw up their forms, make sure they're somewhat level, and pour the concrete, be done. It's easier. Okay. Slab work is harder. It takes a larger crew. Let's say you have 1,500 square feet, at least 3 guys to pour that. But a stem wall, 1 guy could form it, 1 guy can pour them. That's why. And so ask yourself, what kind of a crew am I dealing with? Do I have a crew that wants to do something easy, or do they want to do something that's a little harder? And that's why they're pushing one over the other. So think about that. Western Washington build had to get engineer to redo foundation for ADA. I think it's called ADU.
No. ADA compliance? ADA?
ADA is compliant, but ADU is an accessory dwelling unit. Didn't know about joists needing to be below stem wall instead of on top. And next week, groundbreaking, nervously excited. Yeah, that's that. If you have a stem wall and if you're putting your trusses inside the stem wall, that's called top cord bare. I actually prefer that. It strengthens up the whole foundation. And in an earthquake, it might have a little more of a rocking sensation. But if it's on top of the foundation, you're not going to feel it as much because some of that truss can actually shake a little bit on top of that foundation. If you're in a seismic zone and you're in Western Washington, you're in a seismic zone. So think about that. When they do top cord bare, I like to have at least a 1/2 inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch of a space between wood and the foundation. So when it sits inside there, I have that flexibility. I have that movement, especially in a seismic zone like that. But it helps with your elevation. What do I mean by that? So if your foundation comes up this high, and then your floor trusses sit inside that like that, then you have maybe 3.5 inches of wood coming on top of the foundation versus 18 inches. If you have trusses that are going to put on top of that, you now have 18 inches or more on top of the foundation. So now you have to have rim board out there, and you have to build steps up into the home, or you have to pour concrete, and you have to treat all that to make sure you pour concrete on it. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about a stem wall versus a slab on grade, or a stem wall where a top chord bare where the trusses sit inside, or if they sit on top. If they sit on top, you have that elevation issue. You have to bring steps up to your home, and it throws everything off, which is why I like to keep everything as close to that foundation level as I can. Without over explaining it, I hope I give you some insight there. Okay.
Okay. I'm just doing a shout out for Carrie again.
Okay, Carrie, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. M. Teresa, you guys are making ripples with your kindness to teach us. So Melissa Signs.
Yeah, because I have my make ripples. I didn't turn it on. Next time I'll turn it on.
Okay.
Okay, back to Fly Gym.
This is a budget template.
In the self-managed,
Yeah.
in the self-managed on how to build your own home.
Yeah, there's a budget there, and it's in the download section. Just go to the download section and you'll see it there.
Yeah, he's about to break ground and have permits, so that's awesome. And yes, thanks, Brady. Everybody, give us a thumbs up so we can get this out there.
Yes, that'd be great.
And then
my plumber requested large printed plans to be on site. How many sets should I have printed? Really good question. Don't print too many all at once. Just print one at a time. Your framers and foundation guys, they're going to rip it to shreds by the time your mechanical crew handles it. I usually go through typically 3 sets of plans during the course of the build. I had a framer who took some tape, and he took the plans he got, because it's windy up in the mountains, and he taped the outside edges with clear tape, and it helped those plans last a little longer. I've seen people laminate them, but once they get wet, the water gets in the laminate and it doesn't last very long. It's very costly to do it that way. Some plans are 32 inches square, some are even longer, some of them are smaller. You'll find out when you get them there. But I have a tube, and it's in my supplies or instructions in one of the videos in the self-managed course. It shows you how to build a tube and thread it, and you can keep your plans in that tube. If you just let them laying around, it's not going to work out great. Okay.
Okay. Oh.
Hi, Keith. Been a while. We're also done with all rough inspections. Cool. Any wisdom before installation? Yeah. Just make sure your windows are in. And if your doors are in, your exterior doors, then they can all insulate that all at once. And you'll have to have an inspection. Now, keep in mind, they have to fill all the holes that go through the top plate for wire, plumbing, all that. But the inspector will not see those. Okay. So when you're there, just make sure they cover all those. That's fire and draft protection. All right. And on top of that, when insulators are there, I like a net and blow, and I like that net and blow just crown a little bit on the outside of the stud work. That way, when drywallers come in, they're going to push it in there. It's not hard. They can push in. There's a nice firm fill, and it's a real solid insulation factor. Don't let that be saggy. And you can see insulation where there's gaps and voids and stuff like that. I'm there when they're insulating. I tell them, it looks like there's some void over there. They get lazy, and they won't blow enough in particular areas. So I'm very conscientious to make sure the insulators get it as packed and as full as you possibly can. And then if there's a floor between floors, I insulate that. I quiet it down. It's not that much money. They net and blow it. I got insulation between there, and helps soften the sound inside the entire home. So there you go. There's some stuff on insulation.
Keith, is your meeting in 1 minute?
No, it's at 6:30. We're fine.
Okay. Okay. So let me get down. I lost my place. Sorry. Here we go.
Do you ever use mock-ups for clients? Would a mock-up wall be worth the time making? Yes and no. If you're in a subdivision, they may ask for whole mock-ups for the entire house and a whole panel showing roof, siding material, that kind of stuff. I do mock-ups for drywall to show textures. I do mock-ups to show some sort of a transition in paint to rock to stone. Sometimes I'll do that, but not really. I used to build up in Park City, and we had to build a small little tiny home. No, this is not funny. This is stupid. But they made us build a small home, tiny home, 44 by 44 feet or inches in diameter. And you had to have all your siding and all your rock and all your roof and everything on that little tiny home. And those little tiny homes would cost between $3,000 and $6,000 just to build the stupid little mock setup. And it was a high snooty subdivision, and I hated doing that. Just a total waste of money. And if you're buying a subdivision like that, I will pray for you. So, Jakers Co. What insurance would you recommend an owner builder get? There's just a general umbrella policy, and it's really what the state requires. Every state will require $1 million here, $1 million here on certain areas of liability, and then that there covers all subcontractors for whatever reason they screw up, but they need to have insurance as well. If you go to the architects, engineers, suppliers, and resources, it's a download file in the program, and contact Summit Insurance. I don't get anything from this at all. It's illegal for them to even pay me if I did. But they handle specifically owner builders and builder policy insurance for construction. And he handles the entire United States. He's very privy to a lot of the stuff that happens in Arizona, Wyoming, Utah. The owner of the company, he travels the entire country and educates people on insurance. So just look at Summit Insurance and contact them and just mention Keith at How to Build Your Own Home. They have some good prices there. Okay. Ryan, Colorado. For our garage in Colorado, we did in-floor heating just because we had the chance and foamed the floor and not up the stem wall. 3 car garages are in it, so we are just insulating it well. Thoughts? Great. You're probably insulating it with polyiso foam, probably around 2 inches. That handles a high PSI strength of pressure on it. Just make sure you pour that garage at least 5 inches thick. And I put some rebar in it on top of that foam. And that's going to be a well-insulated floor. You're going to really, really like it. So make sure that the ground below that foam is super level and compacted. You don't want that ground to be bumpy like this and then the foam be bumpy like that. Just make sure that's super level. And I always like 6 to 12 inches of road base under my foundation for my garages and even under my slab on grade. I don't like native soils, never have. I trust a city spec road base, which is sand, gravel bits, and a little bit of native soils, but not much. And it has a great high compaction ratio. So good question.
I just want to say hi, Val. Glad to have you.
Hello, Val.
This is a good question.
Hey, what was the unquestionable sign word that stirred your faith to move on the idea of moving into entrepreneurship and contracting? Was it someone or not being on the chopping block? I was on the chopping block, and I was making posts on Facebook, and these posts started to get attraction, and I couldn't answer all the questions. And I eventually went into consulting, and 1 or 2 students hired me for a nominal fee, and I started to pick more, and I got to build a curriculum. And that was my natural forte, is building a curriculum. And I whipped it out after about 6 months, and I'm still adding to it. I'm actually going to add a course on the page for saunas, doing a lot of research on built-in saunas. So it's really, life pushed me in the direction.
Yeah, and for me, it was my students were getting very apathetic. I had low-income first-generation students that I would help the 7th grade to seniors, and I'd help them stay in school and get good grades, and then help them get scholarships and into post-secondary education. And I remember his average, I could get about $250,000 for about 50 to 60 students their senior year. And then I just watched them drop their scholarship and not going to school. Now I don't care, like as long as they had a direction or going into the trades, that's good. Some would go into, but it was just, I put all that time and effort and energy into helping someone else. And then I just felt like it was wasted. And I thought, well, what if I put that into my own business? Could I make more money than $5 an hour with a degree? And
Right.
that's what triggered me to change.
Yeah, I think we need to put universities out of business.
Not for all, like some attorneys and doctors and all that. So
yeah, good question. Appreciate that. Let's just take one more question so I can get going for a meeting I've got here.
I'm looking. I'm sorry.
Take one more question here.
There you go. Okay, here we go.
Scissor trusses on high ceilings like a barn garage. Doors with windows, a bad idea. No, doors are fine if they're facing south or getting the early morning sunrise. If you have doors that are facing north, especially in the garage, don't do it. Get the whole thing fully insulated. And trusses on high ceilings. Yeah,
scissor trusses.
What's that?
Scissor trusses.
I wouldn't do scissor trusses, not for a barn or garage. Because that's creating more vaulted space, and you can't get your garage doors to work on a ceiling that's coming up. The ceiling has to be flat for garage doors to work properly. So I get a flat ceiling inside that garage. Okay.
Hey, thanks.
We'll end it there. Thanks, everybody. We'll be here again next week, 5 to 6 Mountain Standard Time. And like, subscribe, share, do all that wonderful stuff, and we'll see you guys then.
Okay.
Bye.